Good evening and welcome KPVM television viewers and KACE FM radio listeners to the 2014 Sheriff's Race. I'm Jim Mutton, your host for tonight. This was KPVM's last Sheriff's Race debate. Unfortunately, one of our candidates, Ms. Sharon Worley, could not be here this evening due to a prior commitment. This is a busy week, and of course voting is 1 week from today, and so we will honor that. We do have with us Sheriff's candidate Rick Marshall. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
The way this particular session will work is it will really be a question and answer session. Our viewers have sent in questions through Facebook, emails, and also by telephone, and we have some of those questions already ready for our sheriff's candidate. In addition to that, you can call in the station tonight and send other questions in as they may come to you as we go through this particular session. So what I would like to do is get ready with the questions, start off with the questions, and the first question here is a rather general one. What role does the position of the sheriff play in the daily lives of the residents of Nye County?
You know, Jim, first I'd like to thank yourself, KPVM, and the viewers out there for giving me the opportunity to address them tonight. It's through forums like these that the voters are better able to gauge the quality of the candidates that they are voting into office. As for your question, the role that the sheriff plays in the daily lives is he is the protector of the individual rights of the residents and visitors to Nye County. He ensures that your rights are adhered to. He ensures that his officers and members of his agencies follow the constitutional principles, not just in their words, but in their actions as well. So he is the vanguard, if you will, against evil, and he ensures that you are safe and secure in your homes and your communities.
I think there's a phrase, to protect and to serve.
Absolutely.
And I know that certainly is very important for the role of the sheriff and the sheriff's office. What qualifications and experience are important in performing the duties of the Nye County Sheriff's?
The qualifications and experience, you want somebody in there that has been there and done that. You want somebody that is able to take command of a situation. You want leadership qualities. You want performance qualities. You don't want somebody in there that has never done the job before. You want somebody that's had the boots on the ground, somebody that has led the men and women, somebody that they have faith in, and somebody that they know has been there with them side by side in the trenches. You also want somebody that understands a budgeting process, somebody that understands human resource management, and somebody that understands how to be a communicator and a uniter, somebody that can work with the other department heads, with the Board of County Commissioners, and with the community and the residents. You want all of those things in your leader to run a good quality sheriff's office.
And following up on that question, the next one fits right in, I think. What is your education, your experiences, and your post, and I think that's Peace Officer Standards and Training, certifications?
I have a bachelor's degree in public administration through Nevada State College. I have an associate's degree through the Community College of Southern Nevada in criminal justice. I have an associate's degree in paralegal studies through the Paralegal Institute through Brighton College in Arizona. I'm a graduate of the Northwestern School of Police Staff and Command for executive law enforcement members. As for post-certifications, the Nevada Peace Officer Standards and Training Committee is a regulatory agency that oversees the training and certification of peace officers in the state of Nevada. They start out with a basic post-certificate upon graduating an academy, then they have a intermediate, advanced, supervisory, managerial, and executive. You have to have so many units of college for each certificate and so many years and directed training to obtain each certificate. I have an executive certification, which is the highest awarded in the state of Nevada.
Budgets are always a problem with any organization, and I know that the Sheriff's Office has certainly looked at its budget and has done a lot of work over the years. One of the things that was planned and I know this question comes directly from that plan, was when the new jail was opened, it was planned that the county would lease out bed space to other agencies. Again, this would provide some income. Is there still a plan to do that?
There is, and that's an excellent question. The idea is that you never want to have a jail as a revenue maker, because that would mean that you would have more people in jail than you want. And the idea is to divert people from the criminal justice system to make them productive members of society so that society doesn't have to pay for their room and board. One of the problems that we ran into when we opened the new jail was the staffing levels. You have to have an adequate staffing level in your jail for other agencies to put their prisoners in your jail. They're still responsible for those prisoners, and if you don't have adequate staffing, then there's a thing in law known as negligence. And if you fail to have adequate staffing and the inmate that is under your care and custody from another agency gets injured, then the originating agency can be sued for negligence for allowing that inmate to be in that situation where there was not adequate staffing to protect him. So we're working on the staffing levels in the jail. As soon as we get the staffing level to an area that's acceptable, then we'll look at renting out bed space.
And following along that question, a very similar one, do you think we should close the Tonopah jail?
This question was asked up at our Tonopah Meet the Candidates night, and I said then, and I'll say now with a resounding, absolutely not. There's many, many factors that come into play when you look at closing a facility. Transportation of the inmates to and from the Tonopah court, the other agencies up there, Nevada Highway Patrol, that book prisoners into our facility, housing for the prisoners. If we were to close that facility, where would we house the prisoners? If we house them in Esmeralda County, they could charge us whatever they wanted on a daily room board and room fee. So absolutely not. You also have to take into consideration factors that we normally don't. The families of those prisoners. What type of burden does it put on them to come visit their loved ones when they're in jail? Now, some people might say, well, they shouldn't go to jail. But sometimes through no fault of their own, they do end up in jail. And it puts a burden on not just the family members, but the sheriff's office, the citizens, et cetera. So I absolutely am adamantly opposed to closing the Tonopah jail.
That's very understandable. Now, on a different subject here, how will you handle the continuing drug problem here in Nye County?
I think the drug problem is a three-pronged effort. We have an excellent drug court. We have excellent officers that work on our narcotics task force. We also have several, the third part of that is the educational aspect. We have several community coalitions, No to Abuse, Nye Communities Coalition, Narcotics Anonymous, and I think that it starts really in the schools. We have an excellent DARE program, drug abuse resistance education, and I think when we put all of those together, we look at the enforcement, the education, and the awareness programs. And we have to educate the young men and women in our communities as they become older men and women. The education will stick with them. But I think that it's going to take a community effort to solve it. It's not just a sheriff's office problem, but it's a community problem.
It's not a short-term problem, that's for sure. So you would propose that there are other steps other than what we're taking now that would basically add to that enforcement of drug and problems like that. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Are you in favor of DUI checkpoints?
No. We have found over the years that DUI checkpoints, when you set up a checkpoint, one, there's still a question about the constitutionality. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that they are in fact constitutional. But when you set them up, you have 5 or 6 officers at a set location. As soon as you set them up, everybody knows where they're at, and they drive different areas to avoid them. So you're, in essence, paying officers to sit out at a checkpoint when the people that may be under the influence know it's there and they drive in different locations. So I'm not in favor of them, and we have not run a DUI checkpoint in probably 10 or 15 years that I can remember.
So this would apply even to, let's say, weekends where there are a lot of activity and drinking and so forth.
Correct. We're better off establishing roving patrols where we put officers out in cars and they randomly drive around checking on drivers.
Okay. Again, getting back to the budget, this next question involves that. What steps will you take, and this of course is coordination with the county commissioners, to avoid overspending the budget and to avoid another Attorney General's investigation?
One of the things that we've done already is set up our budget on a line item budget. We had the county turn off the unlimited controls that they had on it. We would have one area in the budget that would be set for $5,000, for example. If they went over that budget amount, the way the county had it set up, it would automatically reach up into another account and grab money from that account to pay off the over expenditure. So we had the county shut that off. We didn't want to do that. That leads to overspending, it leads to budget overruns. So that's one thing we've done. The other thing we've done is set up meetings with the comptroller so that we can go over our budget on a monthly basis to make sure that we are in line with our spending. And it's tough. Our budget's been cut for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been cut dramatically. We've lost 24 positions in the last 4 years, and that takes a toll and effect on our ability to do our job. I'm so proud of the men and women of the Sheriff's Office because they go out there every day knowing that these positions have been cut and hoping for relief on site, but they come out every single day to do their job, and I couldn't be prouder of the men and women of our department.
Very good. How is your relationship with the commissioners? Of course, that's an extremely important interface. If it's strained, if you think it's strained, how do you plan to fix it?
I believe my relationship is good with the commissioners. Certainly we have differences of opinion on staffing levels, expenditures, what's needed. An example is the dispatch closures up in Tonopah and Beatty. I don't think that it was handled properly. I think that they rushed to close a budget gap, and I think that they rushed to solve that by shutting down those dispatch centers. And I think that we are seeing negative aspects of it from the calls that we're getting and the people that I'm talking to in the northern part of the county. I think the way to solve any strained relationship is have open, honest, and direct communications with that person. I don't have to agree with you, and you certainly don't have to put me on your Christmas card list, but the idea of government is that it's supposed to work together for the betterment of our constituents, and that means that we get along to make it better for our constituents, because that's what public service is about, is serving the public, and to serve the public better, we have to communicate and work together.
Now, I understand there were some proposals you made to the present administration, and they were not incorporated. So this question comes from someone who wondered why they weren't incorporated.
Anytime that you have a sheriff's office like we do that is broken up into 3 area commands, northern area, central area, and southern area, the ultimate authority to make those decisions is the person in charge, in this case, the sheriff. And you can make suggestions that you think from your perch will help the department run better, but when you're up on the perch above yours, you may not see what the chief executive officer sees. So some of the ideas that I gave to the sheriff were incorporated, some of them were not. When I become sheriff, I'm going to resurrect those ideas. I'll meet with my command staff, and I'll meet with the public at large. I've always said that I'm going to include the public in my management scheme because I believe in participative management, and we'll take a look at those proposals and see how they interface in today's law enforcement.
Is there any particular proposal that was very important to you that you were disappointed that was not accepted, that you might think of?
You know, I think that consolidating some of our divisions and putting more supervision over some of the officers are one of the things that I'm going to work on when I'm sheriff.
Some of these questions will start with a kind of a statement, and of course you can either refute or accept that particular statement. We only have about a few seconds before we go to our first break. So what I would like to do is just pose the question if I have time, and then you can think about that. The false concept that you could not pass an FBI background check was spread recently. You do in fact hold a number of security clearances. Could you tell us which clearances are particularly important for your job as sheriff?